Hi everyone. Today is October the 7th, 2022, and today I would like to review this book called Rise and Shine by Christopher Renstrom. And this book just got released, and I have to say that given that he's an astrologer, the timing is just perfect. Given that, what is it, either Mars or Mercury, somebody went direct on the day before when he released the book. So I think it was Mercury, I want to say. So I think in that sense, astrologers really know how to time their stuff really well. So good job on that. The book is absolutely, it's beautiful in its wordings, and it's even more beautiful to listen to, because in addition to just buying the book, I also bought the Audible, because when it's read by the author, and especially when that author is Christopher Renstrom, I really you really have to listen to how he speaks to know why the appeal of having his audiobook would be so high. So I first listened to Christopher Renstrom speaking when he was talking something about Aquarius, Venus in Aquarius, or Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn can't be in Venus. What was going on there? I think it was Venus in Aquarius, or he was talking about a Saturn Venus thing, and he was describing. This is the first encounter I had with how Christopher Renstrom speaks, which is why I'm recommending the audiobook more. Well, I don't know if I'm recommending it more. I would say get both. Actually, here's what I would say. I would say that he should do a hardcover edition of this so some of you guys know that whenever I write notes, I write in this sort of a book. This is Paper Blanks, and it's a brand I found when I was traveling, and I was in Iceland, and I discovered this brand, and I picked up a book like this, a blue one actually. I think it was, I'm way off tangent here now, but what else is new if you listen to anything I say? So I picked up a book like this. It was, I think, like a equinox type, a biblical equinox thing book when I was in Iceland. And I tend to write a lot, and at that time I was working as an ops director at Santa Clara University, and and I came back from that trip of mine, and with a book like this, and I had to, I took it to work, and somehow all the garbage that I was doing at work just didn't feel like it made the cut to write in a book like this. So I was like, oh, what is this? I don't want to waste my beautiful book writing these bullshit to-dos, because really I felt like my job was a lot of bullshit. And interestingly, I resigned like a few months after. And since that point, I write everything that I write everything that I consider worthwhile in this brand of books. Now, of course, this is not my review of Paper Blank's books. I'm actually coming back to topic here. I'm trying to talk about my thoughts on his book, Rise and Shine. But since I'm sponsored by nobody here, so this is just my stream of conscious thoughts. This book is such a it's the sort of a book that you should really use as a reference guide, and that's why I'm saying it's good to have the physical book as well as the audiobook. The audiobook for how he speaks, and the physical book for the actual reference of what rising sign and what sun sign. And even if you meet people of a certain rising and a certain rising and a certain sun, or you have a certain rising and what kind of sun sign, how that dynamic will go. And that's why I'm saying that since this content in here is so valuable and so useful, I feel like it should be published in a hardback, hardcover, however you say it, of this type, because oh my God, that would be a marriage made in heaven. So yeah, um, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about his book. But that would probably be the shortest video I've ever made. So, and you know what? I was actually going to review this book yesterday. I was even wearing a yellow dress because the book is yellow and my dress would be yellow, you know. But but I kind of got emotional when talking about the book because the book can bring up quite a bit for you. Now, I listened to the book start to finish, not just my stuff and the people that matter to me, because well, first of all, his way of narrating, and oh yeah, on that note, my first encounter with Christopher Renstrom's style of speaking was when he read out and gave his take on Pride and Prejudice. And even though he was talking about Pride and Prejudice, and yes, it was an astrological, it was the I think the video was done on Astrology Hub, so it was certainly like, if I got takeaways about astrology, well, no wonder it was on Astrology Hub's channel. But even so, I got so many insights that I didn't expect. For example, at that time, I didn't know about this, the 7 year opening, middle, the opposition and the closing squares of Saturn, and that the 7 year, a 7 year thing would be a 7 year age difference would mean that you have a Saturn square with the other person, and what he was describing, that Pride and Prejudice story and the interpersonal dynamic was actually quite similar to my husband and my dynamic, and we are 7 years apart, and it was really funny because, like, it's almost like, Joel and I take turns being Darcy, because we both have that that edge. He's a Scorpio sun. um, so it was really cool to listen to his description of Pride and Prejudice and his take on Pride and Prejudice. And so ever since I heard him describe that, anytime I see his name, I hear his name, I have to listen to everything Christopher Renstrom says. Yes, because he's just, and then he did this other also really incredible story about Earth Terror and Ceres and Persephone, and this was, I think, right around end of April. He gave that interview or that description, and I'll put both these, the Pride and Prejudice one and this series story, also in a pinned comment probably, because these two stories were just so beautifully narrated that they are really worth listening to before you buy the book, or whether or not you end up buying the book or not, though I really recommend. And so I listened to the entire book, start to finish, and it did bring up a lot for me, which is why I began to review it yesterday in my little yellow dress, but then I'm like, no, that's I won't go there on a in a public video like this, but this book really has the capacity to bring up emotion for yourself, or bring up some of your own skeletons if you have any. I mean, who doesn't? But maybe you don't. But if you do, if you have any sort of Chiron-like wounding or anything, or stuff that really gets you. If you have any demons in your inner closet, um, and you read this truly, in the spirit of trying to get to know yourself and trying to get to know uh, the people in your life, it might actually bring up quite a bit for you. So another advice probably would be, if you're taking in this book, don't do a full binge in one day like I did. That might bring up a bit too much emotion or whatever. But if you're a glutton for punishment, masochist, whatever, go for it. But if you're just looking at it as a one thing by one thing, one sign, or like just your rising sign, and you want to look at this as just a reference guide. He has made it simple enough also, without much astrology jargon, for it to be totally you can totally take it in without being an astrologer, without knowing any of the astrological technicalities or anything. The only one caveat I will say is that because in the spirit of keeping it simple, he has given the sort of the rough guideline that your rising sign changes every 2 hours, and so like technically, if you're Aries and so 6 a.m. Aries, or like sunrise technically, which is not always at 6 a.m. So plus 2 hours, plus 2 hours, plus 2 hours. That's how your rising sign keeps changing. But that's not entirely accurate. It's good enough for like the layperson who wants something just real quick and wants to understand. But if you actually put your data in like an astrological software, it will tell you a different rising time or a different rising sign. And so you might want to look at, if you really want to know your rising sign, don't just go by the plus 2 hours, because the latitude and the latitude where you are on the planet will change that, and it's not always 2 hours. So that's the only caveat with his book. However, given that he's made this for lay people and tried to keep it simple, it's great that but if you want to know the truth, then find out your real rising sign and then review this book, or then reference this book rather. But other than that, oh my goodness, it's got so many gems. It's got so many so many really interesting tips also for interacting with people that not that you may not like them, but but they just get on your nerves. And this book, it really helps you to see them in a different light, possibly in a kinder light, in a more tolerant light. And because you're like, okay, so this is their motivation for why they like to act like a dick. They're not actually being like that. This is just their face. So this book is a great reference guide, even from that standpoint. And with that I'll close. And my suggestion to Christopher Renstrom: if you are listening to this book, please release it as a hard copy with with, I don't know, something pretty like a golden disc here and something or the other. A second edition, or a hard copy edition. I know paper and all that is a thing these days, but as if paper was not a thing previously, it still is a thing. But nevertheless, and I always enjoy your stuff. If you are listening to this, I don't know if Christopher Renstrom will actually listen to this. But if you are, I love your book. Thank you for making it, and thank you for all your work, because all your books, even the other one, I'm blanking on that one's name now, but it's like this incredible description of every single thing. Yeah, I love that book of yours too, and if you end up reading it, I will rebuy it on Audible just to hear it read in your voice. Okay, thanks again. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.